Now that we've talked about the blood and the heart, it's time to hit that last section of what's going on with the circulatory system by looking at the blood vessels. The blood vessels, of course, are what carry the blood around to the body so that it can get from the heart to all of the different cells. Now, what we're going to talk about when we're talking about blood vessels applies to the pulmonary circulation going from the heart up to the lungs and back to the heart, and it also applies to systemic circulation going from the heart out to the rest of the body and back to the heart again. When we start from the heart, the blood goes from the heart into the large arteries, like the pulmonary trunk if we're talking about the lungs, or the aorta if we're talking about systemic circulation. And from there it divides into smaller arteries going to specific areas of the body, like the carotid arteries to the head, and the symplavin arteries going out to the arms, and all the way down the descending aorta to the arteries that are going to go into the legs. From there it divides into smaller and smaller arteries until we get to the smallest of the arteries, called the arterioles. From the arterioles, the blood flows into the capillaries, which are the smallest blood vessels. They're only 1 cell thick in the wall of the capillaries. And what's important about capillaries is that's where the exchange of materials actually takes place. Molecules come into the bloodstream and they leave the bloodstream through the capillaries. The wall of the arteries is too big to let any exchange happen. So all the blood gets carried all the way to the capillaries, and that's where we can finally exchange materials with the tissues. Once the blood has gone through the capillaries, it's collected into small veins called venules that empty into larger veins that carry the blood to the biggest veins. That would be in systemic circulation, the superior and inferior vena cava, and if we're looking at pulmonary circulation, that would be the pulmonary veins. They carry the blood back to the heart again. In this slide, you can see microscopically a cross-section through an area of the body where we have an artery and a vein and a nerve all bundled together. So here you can see the artery that has a thicker wall that maintains a more round cross-section. And here the larger vessel with the thinner wall is a vein, and then this one, the one that doesn't have an opening in the middle, this is a nerve. You can see something similar in this slide. Here bundled together we have an artery, again with the thicker wall, and a vein with the narrower wall even though it has a bigger opening. And here are several nerves on this slide. Let's take a look at the structure of a blood vessel. So let's take a look at this artery, and you can see that there are layers to the wall of this artery. Let's take a quick look at the layers that are involved in a blood vessel and why they are important. We're going to start with the very inside of the blood vessel and work our way out. The opening inside the blood vessel is called the lumen, so that's what we'll start with. The innermost layer of cells lining the blood vessel is called the tunica interna, and the tunica interna, the inside of a blood vessel, just like the inside of the heart, is made of a smooth layer of endothelium, that single layer of flat cells. The importance of that is the same as the importance of the smooth layer inside the heart. It allows for a smooth flow of blood through the blood vessel, and it keeps platelets from sticking so that you can avoid blood clots. The second and thicker layer of the blood vessel wall is called the tunica media. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in a tunica media. Most of the tunica media is made of smooth muscle, and the smooth muscle is important because the smooth muscle allows the blood vessel to either dilate or to constrict. As the smooth muscle contracts, then the tunica media gets narrower and we have vasoconstriction. As the smooth muscle in the tunica media relaxes, then the blood vessel dilates. So this is important for being able to control the blood flow to certain areas of the body, as well as to control the blood pressure, which we'll be seeing later. Along with the smooth muscle that we have in the tunica media, there are also some connective tissue fibers. The collagen and elastic fibers allow the blood vessel to be able to stretch, and it also provides it more strength. The outermost layer of the blood vessel is called the tunica externa, and the tunica externa is a connective tissue layer. This connective tissue layer is what connects the blood vessel to the surrounding tissue so it doesn't slide or move all over in the body. And it also contains some blood vessels that are called the vasa vasorum. Vasa vasorum means vessel of the vessels, and these are the blood vessels that are actually carrying oxygenated blood to the cells in the wall of the blood vessel themselves. So even the tissues in a blood vessel need blood vessels to carry oxygen and nutrients to them so that these cells can stay alive.